Hello and good evening, Belarus and Europe. Good morning, America. I'm Lina Shedolina, a co-organizer of the Wellbeing and Tech program for Emerge conference this year. And it's a privilege for me to begin the first Future of Wellness track at Emerge Future Stream, brought to you by the great initiative of Emerge founders and comprehensively curated by Eddie Stern from New York. Welcome from all our team and speakers streaming live from my native Minsk, the geographical center of Europe. In a minute, Eddie Stern will officially open Future of Wellness. It is also broadcasting on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn channels of Deepak Chopra. So thank you all for joining Emerge 2020. Eddie Stern actually doesn't require an introduction to the tech community of the New East because he's Emerge dear friend and was our keynote speaker last year presenting the Breathing App experience. And this year, we are so excited about Deepak Chopra, Eddie's friend, joining us live tomorrow just before closing ceremony. And now, take a breath and please stay tuned with us for the next 3 inspiring hours. Eddie Stern is already here, and for those who doesn't know, he's an Ashtanga yoga teacher, author, and lecturer from New York City. He has a passion for engaging in a multidisciplinary approach to furthering understanding, education, and access to yoga through technology, scientific research, collaboration, and encouraging diversity in all aspects of his work. He studies philosophy, Sanskrit, ritual, science, and religion, and has a great love for music and art, which play a big role in his teaching of yoga. To support and stay connected to the community, he's doing an amazing online program. You can learn more on his website, eddiestern.com, and we also keep you posted on the Future of Wellness events on our website, futureofwellness.online. For a long time, Eddie is my teacher, and I can say my life mentor, my friend and collaborator in many initiatives, also for Russian-speaking communities. Eddie, welcome. With joy and gratitude, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Lina, for that kind welcome, and good evening to everyone in Minsk and in Europe who's joining in, and in Russia as well. A great big greeting and welcome to all of the followers on Deepak Chopra's platforms, including Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn, who are all seeing this on live stream as well. To begin, I'd like to give a very big thank you to Margot and Alexandra and all of the Emerge conference team for supporting the creation of the Future of Wellness stream, which was created in Minsk in collaboration with the digital agency Red Graphic and the media company Vondel. After last year's presentation, these ideas arose to begin a greater exploration into what wellness in tech can do for a fastly growing community. The Future of Wellness Online is supported by the personal initiative of EPOM founder Leonid Lozner, so much gratitude to him, and the smart clothing company Satoshi, which is Latvia-Belarusian clothing company, and the LA-based well-being ecosystem Aware Now, which is an all-in-one brandable business management platform for coaching organizations. So we have wonderful support moving into this stream. The key message for the Future of Wellness agenda is dedicated to #LifeAfterThisYear. What will happen after the pandemic? How can we reevaluate and rethink the way we live and work? Are we welcoming emerging online future and welcoming the new futuristic normal? The stream will focus on mental well-being, mindfulness, longevity, yoga, and meditation practices, and those who we have invited to come speak will touch base on all of those topics. And the influence of all of these mind-body modalities on the tech world and vice versa. They will cover the use of the latest technology to follow up on implementing ideas that will help shape the future of the well-being industry. Now, in America right now, we are going through a tremendously difficult time, and before even we've emerged from the COVID-19 pandemic, we have entered into another pandemic. In fact, it is an epidemic which has been happening in America for a long time, which is the epidemic of racism. I don't even know if epidemic is the right word, but it's a virus. And after a Black man was killed, George Floyd, about a week ago, his police officer knelt his knee on his neck for over 8 minutes until George Floyd passed away. America has erupted into violence, and not so much into violence. We've erupted into protest and to seek justice, and to end racism in this country. And so today is Black Tuesday, is Blackout Tuesday in America, which is that everyone is taking a break from social media, from classes, from all sorts of online everything, and only posting Black images. Of course, we're not going to be doing that here today because we have this conference scheduled and we all need to be here to live up to our commitments to present. This conference is a huge undertaking. But I do want to acknowledge Blackout Tuesday, and I do want to acknowledge the virus of racism which is occurring in America and the protests that are occurring, and to especially highlight the peaceful protests that are happening in America right now, and the desire for mental and emotional well-being, as well as racial justice and freedom and health and freedom for all. And so that needs to be mentioned now as where I'm coming from. In New York right now, we live near Union Square Park, which is the epicenter of most of the protesting which is happening in New York. If you see on the news, you'll see this area, Union Square Park, coming up again and again, with a lot of violent interaction between police and protesters. But it's not all violent. There's a lot of very positive things happening, and people need to be heard. And part of wellness, and part of our wellness stream, is how do we begin to listen in new ways? How do we communicate in new ways? And part of understanding tech and using tech to in its best way are as listening and communication tools that will make our lives better. So I'm now going to introduce AKASH Mehta, who will be our first speaker. He's a dear friend, and AKASH is a British entrepreneur and an influencer. He graduated from the Imperial College of London in engineering, and he previously worked at Burberry, Estee Lauder Companies, and Dior. Currently, he's the founder of Fable and Mane, an Ayurvedic-inspired hair wellness brand, and his own conscious digital agency, AKASH Agency. Recently, AKASH was placed on Forbes 30 Under 30 list in media and marketing, and has been sharing his marketing expertise at some of the largest conferences and universities around the world, including TEDx. With near 300,000 followers on Mehta_A, AKASH is now focusing in his voice for good as a global guardian for UNICEF and his newly launched fund with his sister. So we're going to hear from AKASH, and we are going to hear how he has taken his knowledge of branding and of digital media and of social media to use for social good. With that, I will now introduce AKASH Mehta. Thank you, AKASH.
Hi, Eddie. Thank you so much for the introduction and also for your prior message. So with further ado, I'll start the presentation. I'll share my screen. Perfect. So today my topic is all about mindfulness and millennial conscious social branding, stemming around the world of social media, predominantly kind of deep diving into Instagram as the main focus, which is often the most discussed platform today. Coming from someone who is a millennial and is surrounded, from the birth of Instagram till now around social media, it's very important today to understand consciously what it is to be on these social media platforms and how to mindfully, consume the abundance of material that we have on these platforms. So I think the first point to start with is to understand social media first in general. So today, the average person does check their phone every 12 minutes, and that's around 30,000 times a year. And they have on average over nearly 8 social media accounts, ranging from even WhatsApp to LinkedIn being one of these. And I think the statistic is actually a lot higher in reality, especially those who are probably tuning in being on their phones a lot. We spend a lot of hours a day on these social media accounts. So it is true to say that we are surrounded by it. And the one thing that's super important today is to understand how we consuming it, and are we conscious of that. But I think the best way to kind of deep dive into that is to understand who are the main people that are pioneering the social media platforms. And these are traditionally known as influencers. Now, influencers meaning not number of followers. 1 million followers does not mean necessarily an influencer. These are people who you admire to follow on your platforms. Someone who has a sort of a power to influence the perception of yourself. Of course, they should have 3 key factors. They should have a sense of reach, contextual credibility in what they're speaking about, which in turn allows them to be that desire to be followed, and in some cases salesmanship. So the higher the factors of these, the higher the influence potential. And that's why traditionally today, those that have millions of followers are known to be the top influencers of today. And often when you think of influencers, we do think of very positive words. There's happiness, they're inspiring, they're motivating, they're great for education and building a community. And I think that goes without saying, but it's very important to understand where are we heading and what's the sort of message that's maybe being lost in translation to a more younger generation, the next wave of people that are going to start consuming the internet, and especially those a lot younger. The problem is today, to get to this sort of level of influence and traditionally speaking, having more followers leads to us to follow a false path. We all now, a lot of people are very interested to be an influencer, and they go, down the paths that are not organic. For example, becoming a social media advocate just to get monetary benefits, like getting paid. People end up buying fake followers, which is a huge issue today, and I think exists in not only individuals but also for brands. Over collaborating and becoming a sort of an ad account and no longer having a sense of authenticity or conveying a true message. Also, not really always being ourselves, over editing images and sort of conveying the best parts of our life, which in turn separates our own reality to a more virtual false persona. And the last is spending too much time to gain this success. So today, a lot of children, a lot of kids, a lot of adults are very much interested in gaining more followers and the benefits that usually are considered with those, but unfortunately are taking the wrong path in doing so. And with this, we're seeing a rise of people that are becoming, in a way, influencers, especially mainly due to the fact of buying fake followers, which often is the easiest way into this kind of this market. But interestingly enough, that the people are seeing this fatigue. And an influencer friend of mine actually posted recently a story to her audience asking, how do you feel when you see an ad? And how do you see when you see, perfect feeds and the perfect sort of life on Instagram? And the answers were very interesting. I mean, a lot of people found a sponsored post to be fake, nearly 75%. And more so alarmingly, everyone seemed to be on this 50-50 breaking point where they weren't sure how they feel about the future of social media. They see the equal amount of pros and cons. They see people that makes them feel inspired, but also self-critical. They also feel happy and sad when they scroll through social media. But the most important, after they spend the time that they actively choose on social media, they feel drained. And I think this is something that perhaps today in society, we're not consciously thinking about listening to ourselves and understanding how do we actually feel when consuming the internet, or even when pursuing the goals of being, for example, an influencer or having a sense of following on these accounts. And this was a very interesting learning point, and this is what made me go deeper into this. As someone who has an Instagram following myself, I personally have turned off accepting any paid ads for the last 3 years, and I've personally only post about things that mean something to me. And I found myself a lot happier in doing so because I'm really reflecting my true persona, albeit I might not get as many likes or I might not grow as quicker. For me, I'm being most authentic self. And when I saw this pie chart, the first thing I saw without looking at the title was, oh, it seems like this pie chart is showing that millennials are spending more time on social media than the matures, or they enjoy social media. But actually, when I looked deeper and I found the title, it's the millennials that are showing the most signs of negative effects of social media on their physical and mental health. And it was from this pie chart and this kind of graph that I realized, wow, okay, something needs to be done. And I don't think enough people are talking about it or even trying to address it, because it is a big issue today. And if we don't address it now, we are going to be causing more and more negative effects on our mental health. And this is proven scientifically, and many studies have been done that show social media does have negative effects on mental health and on your brain. And when a poll was done to 20,000 people, where they felt, does social media do good for your mental health? The answers were very clear, being either 50-50 or negative, but very little were positive solely. And I think that was a big alarming point. So from this moment, I sort of wanted to then go a bit deeper and understand, okay, I think I've understood the perception is very clear to me. People are worried about their mental health and people are not sure in the future of social media, but is there any scientific evidence to back this up? And I started to find out that nearly 9% of the world's population, that's the population of the USA, has internet addiction disorder. And this is what's sort of been found, but there's probably a lot more. And what this means basically is there's been an increased level of dopamine that's been excreted in the brain, which is a chemical that's sort of causing an addiction, like when you go gambling and you get addicted to gambling. This is what dopamine does to you. And it's actually proven that changes in the white matter of the brain are caused from internet addiction disorder. So this made me realize, wow, there's actually scientific evidence that we are seeing changes, but only because this is so new in the last 10 years, can we not really necessarily see the effects. So, for example, changes in white matter of the brain can cause Alzheimer's at a much earlier age. Right now, the average user who's having this effect is in their 20s. They won't see these effects till later when the damage is too late. So for me, I think bringing awareness to the light, but also, not saying, this is something that we should completely abolish, but are we mindful in how much are we consuming the internet, and do we need to be consuming it for X amount of time each day? And another fact that was also quite alarming is also in terms of privacy, security on your data. A lot of the times we don't realize, but even there was an algorithm that was made in machine learning that found that 70 of your likes that you do on photos, so 70 posts that you like, a machine can know more about you and your interests than your friends can. And 300 likes of yours can know more than your spouse. And that was quite alarming to me to realize, yeah, we're actually, a lot of our, personal interest is out there on the internet, and are we even being secure on that, and how we're being, how much data is being shared? So a couple of points I want to make sure, from people to take away, and it's very easy to do, is just be mindful on the safety angle of social media. So avoid geotag locations where people can know where you're located. If you're going to message companies, message them privately, because a lot of people can also end up finding your message and then calling the company, pretending to be you, asking for a claim, and then they find out your address, or they can find out your password just from that conversation on the phone. Try to keep an account private if you can. Always allow two-factor authentication. Assume everything you post is public, no matter what, because once it's on the internet, it rarely can go. And try to avoid real-time posting. Live in the moment and delay everything a little bit, so that, it just takes one person to be in the wrong place at the wrong time for a big problem to happen. So these are just some points from a safety point of view and your data point of view that I think is very important. But if I was going to sum up the whole general message about mental health, safety, physical health, these are 6 tips that I would love to recommend to everyone out there, especially the millennial generation, who are perhaps not consciously kind of considering their social media usage each time, is pay attention to your social media usage. I personally, for example, with my friends, I have a competition every week. We share our screen time, and the one who's got the most screen time has to, give a donation or, pay something. It's sort of like a little game we play, but it actually forces me to not have to be very selective of how much I'm using my phone, because I want to, beat my friends. And I think that's a very fun way to also be very careful and very smart with your usage. Approach it mindfully, so really think twice. What am I consuming, and do I need to consume this content? Vet and limit content. So listen to your moods. If you're feeling self-critical, if you're looking at someone's photo and you're feeling a little bit down, perhaps unfollow them, or perhaps block their content for a while, because we can choose. That's the beauty of social media. We can choose what we want to see and what we don't want to see by who we end up following. Detoxing is very important, like we do with dieting and everything. It's very important to do the same. Listen to your moods and behavior. So really make sure that you really are aware of how you're feeling. And if you're feeling down, it's a moment to not be on the internet, but perhaps be more for yourself and address the issues. And always remember, real life triumphs all. And that's the most important, because your virtual life won't stay with you forever, but your real life will. So that's just my little deep dive into the topic. And Eddie, I'll come back to you.
That was fabulous, Akash. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Really, really good. Yeah. So we have 10 minutes for Q&A. If anyone has any questions, you can put them into the Q&A area. And I thought that was a very conscious approach to social media. I mean, exactly what you said. I really like about the different things you covered in regards to mindfully using social media and what some of your strategies are, as well as safety too. That really made me think. Yeah. Now, I don't know what a geo-tagging a location is. What did that mean exactly?
That means when you put where your location is. So if I put, for example, I'm in this specific, I'm in this mall, Westfield shopping center, and I post a photo or in my story, people then know, oh, exactly in that moment you're in this location.
I see.
Yeah.
Something. So tell me, you had this amazing career in with Dior that you just left, and you started AKASH Agency with this idea of conscious media and branding. So tell me a little bit about what made you want to do that and what your goals are with AKASH Agency.
Definitely, yeah. So for me, I think my biggest, I loved working for corporate giants like Estée Lauder, Dior, and what I felt is because of, unfortunately, the structure of big companies, there are certain limits in things that can be done. There are processes in place, and in a way, rightfully so. What I felt is the fastness of social media, especially digital today, and how quick it's moving. I felt a lot of the time internally we weren't being quick enough or agile enough because of certain rules in the company, but also perhaps not listening enough to the market. And I felt, for me, I was looking out there, worked with many agencies in the past, and I felt there wasn't really any digital agencies that specialize in, yes, we do digital, but I will do it sustainably for the business and for your branding. For example, we don't prioritize payments. I don't say, oh, yes to everything. If I feel something shouldn't be done, and if it hasn't got a right reason or authentic story behind it, I won't accept to do that collaboration with a partner of mine. So I wanted to help that side of things, but also in terms of budget allocation. A lot of the time we spend a lot of money on digital, a lot of time and effort without really thinking of the 360 behind it. It just becomes very one-on-one marketing of we have a brand, we have a product or a service to sell. What's the return? So my whole angle is turning it upside down and reverse engineering it. And I think that's what ends up creating a much more conscious approach to digital marketing.
Do you think that a lot of the big companies and maybe even smaller companies have a misunderstanding of what digital media is for and how to even use something like Instagram?
Yeah, I think one of my experiences working in companies is I'm coming in. I've been fortunate where I've come in quite senior in some of these companies, but there is someone above me, uh, perhaps someone who has been there before, or has a lot more years and experience. And what I try to tell a lot of my employers was that it's not about corporate experience that makes you a great digital marketer. It's about digital or social media has been existing just as long as I've been using it since anyone else. So if I've worked 20 years in corporate, doesn't mean I'm less knowledgeable in digital than someone who has worked in 20 years in marketing. So I felt a lot of the decisions in the corporate environment were based on comfortability of, oh, this is what I'm used to, this is what we've done in the past, and this is what we'll do. Open to suggestions, but we'll test those suggestions slowly, but we've got to do what we know. And for me, it's sort of like every day in social media is like reset mode. There's always a new learning. There's always a new way to work. Even today, I would say like maybe a year ago, I would have felt like a super digital expert. Today, if you're asking me about TikTok, I'm not an expert whatsoever. Like it's moving so quickly. And I think that's what it takes is to really listen in digital more than you speak. And I felt that's what I felt was lacking a lot in a lot of these places.
You seem to be really taking a quality over quantity approach now to even your own personal account. What can you tell us about that a little?
Yeah, so like in terms of my agency, or in terms of
your agency, and also like your personal account, you have almost 300,000 followers, but I see you going through and taking people out who aren't being active and you're really interested in developing quality base rather than thinking, oh, now I got 300,000, I can get to 500,000.
Totally. For me, there's actually, I really feel today it's more of a benefit to have less qualitative audience than a lot of followers that are not relevant. It's really about feeling close to your audience and also making it very much more, and that's also sustainable, the value of your audience. And once you also have the audience, are you taking the time to establish that connection and also sort of understand the value of each one individually, as opposed to, oh, okay, I already achieved 5,000 followers, let me now get 5,000 more, which is what a lot of people do. So for me, I'm spending the time, for example, I do like take out fake followers, which will come normally without me wanting it. So I have like every day I delete followers because I don't want an inflated fake amount. But at the same time, I want to make sure first, before I go on to kind of thinking about how do I expand my reach, which is something that many people would think today, my first job is how can I first make sure that all my current audience, I've got a strong connection with them. And that's why recently I've actually just launched a 2-month digital course every Friday now. And it's going to be a free course for my followers initially. And already like, that's my way to say, okay, I don't need to fight. I want to help you guys that's been on the journey with me for free. And it's not really about anything else but that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to take your course. Do you want to tell everyone where they can find it?
Yeah, so you can just sign up on akashagency.com. I think we sold 90% of the slots. There's 1,000 per live stream. I might increase it maybe after this to even more. And it's free. There's going to be specific deep dives into like influencer marketing, Google Analytics, email marketing, very specific topics. And I'm going to share all the secrets I've learned at Dior, at Lauder, all my time, and share it all for free. Because right now is a time where it's the time for giving and the time for learning. So that's my, yeah.
Amazing. And what you said about feeling closeness with the people who are on the stream, I think that that's a message, of course, of authenticity and of care for your personal brand. And the understanding of what your personal brand is something that I see you're able to help people define, whether it's Dior or whether it's a hotel or whatever. And you've been helpful with me also. We talk about the program I do every morning on Instagram Live, and you said, oh, you have a good following in terms of showing up every morning. And what that helped me to do was think when I saw the numbers and I could see people adding on or people dropping off to really remember, every number there is a person.
Yeah.
It's not a number for a goal of I want this many followers. Followers are people, and people who are coming into your live streams, every single person is a person. And so that just helped me to remember, like, okay, we're dealing with people here, and people all have feelings.
Yeah.
And
we forget a number. I mean, even when we say 10 people like my photo, that's like how I try to do it. I try to think, imagine 10 people in front of me. Like, to me, that's a lot of people, right? So I think that's the problem with social media is we prioritize a number over the value of that number. So I think if we can try to do that more, we become less obsessive about, augmenting numbers and more about building a relationship with those numbers.
Yeah, that's very nice. And I think, in the 3 minutes I have left, I think this might be a good place to get some final thoughts on. If we're talking about wellness within tech, if we're talking about wellness within social media, your points were so good in the slideshow. Let's talk about not just us, but the people who are engaging in our media for a moment. And what are your thoughts on that, on their well-being and being exposed to us?
So it cuts off a bit at the end. So about the unfair well-being of. So can you repeat that?
The well-being of the people who are watching what we're doing.
Yeah, and how to build that.
How to think about that.
I think that's where, like, you sort of once you've established who your audience is and how who if once you know more about the value of them, can you only then understand how to impact that with their well-being? Because of course everyone will need a unique way of talking to. For some people it's easy to say take 10 minutes every morning to meditate. For some others, it's you can say take an hour, and for others, they can say, "Look, I have 100 things to do. I don't have the time." So I think the way you do it is offering a variety of ways that everyone can adapt themselves to and make it as sort of universal as possible. But once you then, I feel the right way from a sort of a person with an influence view is to really try to focus on having a segment or an audience that isn't too wide, that you can be very direct and genuine to. And that's why it goes then beyond the number, but more in even losing followers to have the right audience, to then spread the right message. And I think that's what can happen today is a lot of people on social media, because they have too many followers, they end up not knowing how to directly impact. It's easier just to spread a nice message, but then they have to go very vague or very blanket approach without necessarily concrete ways, because they're scared that not everyone will react the same way. Whereas if look, my audience is, for example, for me, if I knew my audience is all from India and they all are X amount of age, I could be a lot more direct in the way I say things and assume certain things. Then right now we have the issue where I have following all over the world, and perhaps my method isn't so easily accessible for everyone. So I think that's where it comes to, is understanding your audience and maybe trying to be a bit more streamlined with your approach.
Beautiful. That was fabulous, AKASH. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eddie.
And people can find you at akashagency.com.
Yep, for the courses, absolutely.
And everything else. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Eddie, and have a great day and lots of wishes, everyone. Thank you.
And then folks, we'll be up with Eliza.